Today we are talking about how to handle living with your adult child, maybe college age child, and how to handle giving them more and more financial responsibilities so that they don't become entitled people who expect everything to be given to them so that they have some skin in the game. Maybe you are a mom like me where, your adult child, college age child does something, or you ask them to do something, right? You ask them to empty the dishwasher and all hell breaks loose, right? And you're like, what happened? And they give you an attitude, or they roll their eyes, or you ask them to borrow their car for whatever reason. Maybe your car's in the shop and they're just like, no, you can't do that, right? And your head wants to explode. And suddenly you're like, after everything I've done for you, after all the stuff I pay for you and give you, I gave you a college education, right? I gave you a car. I do all this stuff for you. And then it turns into World War III. Then that child of yours is saying back to you, how dare you throw all that in my face? I'm really overwhelmed and I work really hard. And all of a sudden you're like, what happened, right? All of this because I asked them to do some simple task, or I asked them to borrow something of theirs. Maybe you asked to borrow their computer because your computer was broken, or borrow their car that you pay for, but they said no. When that happens, it's not usually, I'd say across the board, it's because you have let things slide too much. We just did an episode on spare the rod, right? Spoil the child. You've heard of that saying. And the rod, though, is not an actual physical thing. The rod can be boundaries, and the rod can also mean you setting rules in place, right? You setting expectations as your child gets older so that they take on more and more responsibilities and they have some skin in the game so that they understand, right? As a parent, have you ever said to your child when they're just running the water, right? They run the water, they walk away for an hour, come back, and you're like, hey, water is not cheap. And your kid's like, what do you mean you have to pay for water, right? Drop in comments if you are a mom that you're at your wit's end. You feel like you have given so much of yourself, your time, your resources, your money to your child, and that they don't appreciate it. And you are so worried. You raised an entitled child who expects everything. Drop in comments if that is you and you want some help with that today. Welcome to Worthy Woman Healing Podcast. I am Lisa Czak, your host, and today I'm doing a solo episode on this because I'm speaking to you moms, right? Maybe we'll have my daughter on for a follow-up about like her perspective on this, the college age kids' perspective on this, so that we can get a balanced view of what's going on. But right now I'm speaking to you, mom, the frustrated mama that feels like you gave your blood, sweat, and tears to this child, and there's no appreciation, no gratitude, and only expectations, right? That you are supposed to do these things, which is true as parents, right? We don't get points for taking care of our child through ages 0 through 18, right? However, most of the parents I know are continuing, myself included, continuing to support their child through college, pay for college, right? Maybe pay for their car insurance. Drop in comments if the cost of insuring a college age driver makes your head want to explode. So This is what I think is happening, though, is that in order to stop this pattern from repeating, stop this, you ask your college age child to do something and they refuse. They say no. They are so much resistance. There's eye rolling, right? Like my husband will say, "Who cares if she rolls her eyes? Who cares as long as it gets done?" I care, right? I care. That's disrespectful to roll your eyes at me and give me attitude. How many moms can relate to this, right? The eye rolling, the huffing, the puffing, every single time you ask them to do something so simple. So when that happens, and then we have this tendency to want to just lay into them, right? Which I definitely am guilty of doing. And it's a sign that I have been giving too much of my time, money, and resources to this child. And now they expect that, right? They start expecting that. And then you threaten to take it away, right? I'm going to take away your car. I'm going to take away your keys. Give me the keys to the house. And then maybe they even respond with, a little F you. I'm leaving. I can't wait to leave here. I can't wait, which is all normal developmentally because we want our kids to fly away from the nest, right? But we want them to be independent. We want them to be able to take care of themselves. And what myself included, my husband included, I see this a lot with the women I work with, is that we don't want them to have to suffer like we did, right? We don't want them to have to, struggle. And so we err on the side of giving them too much. So we spare the rod. Now, when I say rod in this instance, I mean boundaries, expectations, and responsibilities that we give them. We spare that too much, to their detriment and our detriment. Because the whole point is that when they do leave the home, they're able to take care of themselves. They're able to pay their bills and pay for unexpected expenses that come up, that they're able to, buy groceries and, figure out maybe I don't need to go to Starbucks 4 times a week because I need to buy groceries. And so you got to check in with yourself and say, okay, why is this pattern happening? Why is this big explosive thing happening? And the catalyst is always every time you ask them to do something, whether it be something big or something little, right? The answer is no, or you're met with resistance, you're met with attitude. And mind you, I'm talking about college age kids. I'm talking about, all kids do this, right? That's part of just what kids do. I'm talking specifically about adult children because it's harder with them, right? Because it's hard to say, okay, can you please be home by 10 o'clock? And they're like, I want to be home by midnight. Well, when they come in at midnight and you're asleep and the dogs bark and everyone wakes up, that's an issue, right? So it's about seeing, okay, now that they're in college and maybe they're coming, this is even harder for parents who have college kids coming home on break and summers, right? Because they've had all this freedom at college to do whatever they do in those dorm rooms, come and go as they please, eat what they want, do what they want. And now suddenly they're at home and you're like, my house, my rules. And that doesn't go over so well. So it's really about setting expectations. First of all, what are your boundaries as a mom? What are you willing to tolerate or not willing to tolerate? Now, you don't have to share that with your college age child. This is your information. This is true across the board when you're talking about boundaries in general, whether it be at work, whether it be with a friend, whether it be with your spouse, with your husband. The boundary is for you to decide, this is what I will tolerate and this is what I will not tolerate. Then the second step is you got to decide, what am I going to do when that person crosses my boundary. So when your adult child crosses that boundary of yours, what are you going to do so that you don't react emotionally like we all do? Like I just did. I just did this 10 minutes ago. She's not in here, you notice, right? Yeah, because I reacted emotionally. And I was having a conversation with her that she took as mean. And it probably did come across as mean because I was feeling resentful, right? I needed her to do something for me and she wouldn't do it. So it turned into a much bigger thing because there was a lot of emotional reacting, right? So setting what is the boundary? What are you going to tolerate? What are you not going to tolerate from your college age child? And the second thing is having a plan. If they cross that boundary or try to expand your boundary, what are you going to do and not do? Those are two key things. I have a friend who I love this. He tells his college age kids that the price to live in his home as an adult child is to do whatever their mother says to do without attitude. Yes, mom is the price of the rent to live there. It's the price of using their car, right? Price of being on their insurance, price of the food that they eat, right? The price is yes, mom. Now, I don't know how he actually gets them to do that. They actually do though. But he set these boundaries in place, right? Him and his wife had a conversation and he saw that his wife was frustrated, that every time she asked the college age kids when they came home to do something, they were like, no, I'm busy, whatever their excuses were, right? And so they had a conversation when they weren't in an emotional state and they decided that that's the rule, right? It's yes, mom, or there's the door. And you got to be willing to back that up though. And they were willing to back that up to say, okay, if you don't want to follow this rule and do what your mom asks you to do, then you can go stay somewhere else. That's really hard to do as a parent though. You are only as sick as your secrets. It is time to stop suffering in silence and join other women who are also on a healing journey, who are being raw, real, vulnerable, and honest with what they are going through in their life, what they have been through in their life. And wherever two or more are gathered, we know God is with us. It says it right there in the Bible. So there is power to group healing. Miracles happen in there. You have one woman sharing, opening up her heart. Suddenly everyone else in the group is saying, yeah, I've experienced that. I'm not the only one. There's such power in knowing that you are not alone in your suffering. You are not alone in your healing. And we meet twice a month. And in between those times, a lot happens, right? And it's important that you have time in between the sessions to practice the healing technique that I teach you, so you can come back into the group and celebrate with the other women. Hey, I actually remembered to do the healing technique in that moment. That trigger didn't derail me anymore. But it's practice. I'm also a personal trainer, right? You don't just get a six-pack abs by doing one sit-up. You have to keep doing it over and over again. You don't run a marathon. You don't go out and run 13.1 miles for a half marathon the first time, right? You practice running a little bit every day. And that is what we do in Worthy Woman Healing Group. Join today and tell yourself, I'm going to give this a 3-month commitment minimum, because I know I need time to practice outside of these sessions, and come in and get guidance from the other women on how to actually heal all of these wounds, heal my mind, body, and soul one trigger at a time. You are worth it. Okay, so we got the boundaries down, and then also the expectations. So you got boundaries, and then you got expectations. What are your expectations for your college age kid? Whether they live at home, whether it's an adult child living at home, whether it's a college kid coming back and forth, which I think would be horrible. I'm so glad that I did not have to deal with that phase. My daughter just lives here, but I think it'd be really hard to have a college age kid coming in and out. So what are your expectations for them, right? And so you let them know, not in a fight, not when you ask them to empty the dishwasher and they roll their eyes, not in that moment. You let them know what the expectations are. So, we expect you to, if you see the dishwasher is full, to empty the dishwasher. We expect you once a week to do these things around the house for us. We expect you to, wash the car after you use it. Whatever it might be, decide what those expectations are in a non-emotional state and then present them to your child. Present them not just you as a mom, but as with your husband as a team, so that they understand that you are a united front and you are unbreakable. And so they don't go crying to you, Mom, Dad is so mean. Can you believe he's making me pay for my own gas? Or, whatever it is, because they will do that. They will absolutely do that. They will go to the weaker link, which is usually us moms, and they will cry about whatever it is that the other parent is making them do. So making sure you're united front. So I hope this helps you. So let's just review real quick, okay? So you're going to have the boundaries. Steve, you can put this up there. Steve is our amazing podcast producer. If you need a podcast producer or an audiobook producer, he's your guy. So Steve, let's write this down. Boundary. The first thing is boundaries, right? What you will or will not tolerate. And remember, those boundaries are for you. You're not sharing those with your college age child because they will manipulate that whole thing. You're not going to do that. Okay, so boundaries, what you will or will not tolerate. Expectations for when your college age kid comes home, or if they're living there all the time, if it's an adult child, your expectations for what you expect them to do around the house, or for you and your husband, or for the family, whatever it might be. Boundaries, expectations. The third takeaway I want you to get from this is if you do find yourself exploding, right? Just feeling like, oh my gosh, I asked them to do the simplest thing, right? Can you put gas in the car after you're done? And they refused. They wouldn't do it. They said they didn't have the money, whatever it might be. And then all of a sudden you're like, I do so much for you. How dare you do this, right? You might even go back to labor. I labored with you for 18 hours and 7 days, and you can't do this one thing for me. That is a sign you need to check in. How on those things, do I have boundaries in place? Have I set the expectations for them? And third, how is my self-care going? Because as moms, we tend to take care of everyone else at the expense of our own health. Drop in comments if you have ever done that as a mom, right? We put ourselves last on the list. We are told by society, churches, we think everyone expects us to just drop everything and be this supportive, nurturing, patient, kind, self-controlled soul, which is all true. Those are all things that God wants us to be as a wife and a mom. And it's going to be really hard. You're going to be like a fish swimming upstream if you are wanting to be those things, but you're not taking any time for yourself. Now, I want you to write out your non-negotiables, right? What do you need to do every day, mama, so that you can show up optimally in your life, so that you don't emotionally react to when that, child of yours just looks you flat in the eye and says, no, I'm not doing that, or rolls their eyes, or does whatever rebellious thing that they're doing, right? What is it you need to do every single day? And it's so simple. You want to pay attention to that one thing that you're not doing that makes your whole day go to hell, right? You just go down the rabbit hole. So some examples from clients that I've worked with in our Worthy Woman Healing Group, which you can join. It's twice a month. We help you heal from all of this. Peace is inevitable. No matter how horrible your child is treating you, peace is inevitable in Worthy Woman Healing Group. So some examples of non-negotiables I've heard just over the years with the thousands of women I've worked with are, I have to take a shower every single day, first thing in the morning, because otherwise I just start eating bad and I get grumpy and nasty and impatient and I just can't handle things. I have got to wash my face every night. That's mine, actually. Because then if I don't wash my face at night or brush my teeth, that means something's going on in my life that I'm ignoring. And the next day I'll probably wake up and want to eat donuts and not work out and, not take a shower. It just kind of is a signal for me things are going down. Alone time. Have you had any alone time? That's another one I hear. I just need 5 minutes alone, which is actually why we take women on retreats, on Worthy Woman Healing Retreats. The next one is in the Dominican Republic on January 30th to February 3rd. And the whole purpose of that is to give you 4 nights and 5 days just to focus on you, just to learn how to take care of yourself again, just to simply breathe, lay in a hammock and take a nap if you want. So sign up for that. We only have 3 spots left and you have to book it in the next, I think by the end of this month, October 31st is the deadline for that. Anyway, so have you had alone time? That's another big one. Have you gotten outdoors? Have you seen the sunlight at all? Getting that vitamin D, right? That's another non-negotiable I hear a lot about. Have you moved your body in a way that honors it? Meaning, if you didn't get sleep last night, okay, great. Maybe you'll just do yoga or stretch or go for a walk, but moving your body every day. Have you drank enough water? No, you could be dehydrated. You can't handle things well when you are in a dehydrated state or a state of starvation or a state of being overcarb. So look at your non-negotiables and decide, what is it I need to do every day to put myself first? And I'm going to tell you this, self-care is not selfish. It's selfish to not take care of yourself. God and Jesus say, love yourself as your neighbor, right? Love your neighbor as yourself. I got that mixed up. Love your neighbor as yourself. Guess what that means? That means that you need to love yourself, because if you don't love yourself and you don't take care of yourself, how are you going to take care of anyone else in your life? So just like the airlines say, put on your own oxygen mask first so that you can take care of others, because you cannot help someone else if you can't breathe. Okay, let's recap. Boundaries, what you will or will not tolerate. Expectations for that college age child that's living with you, coming and going. And third, non-negotiables, self-care. What have you done for yourself every single day so that you can show up optimally in your life? We got this, moms. You and I are in this together. I want to hear how it's going from you after you hear this episode. What did you implement? What are the boundaries that you put in place? What will you tolerate? What will you not tolerate from that college age kid? What are the expectations that you have for your child, your college age child, and what are your non-negotiables? Let's help each other. Maybe you have an idea I haven't thought of, right? That's why I love our healing group, because we get ideas from other women. We're much stronger when we all work together and put our heads together. How can we solve this issue than when we just try to do it alone and fight through it and sit in the closet and eat chocolate, or, go for a bottle of wine, or just emotionally react in a way that maybe we don't want to. So let me know. I want to hear from you. And remember, you are worth it.